Yes, thank you. New at 6 here tonight. As unbelievable as it may sound, if federal agencies suspect criminal activity, they can take your money, even if you don't end up being charged with a crime.
That's right. It's a controversial practice known as civil forfeiture. And critics tell I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern, despite changes made to Florida law, more needs to be done so personal property is not padding the pockets of law enforcement.
The Institute for Justice is firing off lawsuits here in Florida and across the country in a bid to stop police from seizing innocent people's property. In tonight's special Full Circle report, we tell you where the money is going, why agencies defend the program, and the push to eliminate policing for profit.
Gambling is kind of what we do.
Stacey Jones lives in Tampa, but flies often with her husband.
We've traveled back and forth to Vegas.
The lights, the sounds, a long-time way of life for Jones.
I was in the casino business for 20 years. Never thought twice about traveling with cash.
Not until earlier this year, when she was stopped in a North Carolina airport. A gambling trip with friends cut short after a close family member passed away. In her bag, Jones had her gambling money plus cash from her friends to buy her 2015 Maserati Ghibli back in Tampa. So how much money were you traveling with?
About $43,000.
There is no limit to the amount of cash a passenger can carry on a flight within the U.S. But going through security, Jones says a TSA agent held her bag.
And she said, "Where did this come from?"
Before turning it over to a local law enforcement officer.
He then called the gentleman who bought the car to confirm. He came back and told us our story wasn't adding up. And then he called in some DEA agents.
Were you charged with anything?
No, no charges, no evidence, no nothing. It was just seized.
Jones flew back to Tampa the same day without her money. A couple of months later, she received this notice from the Drug Enforcement Administration telling her what to do to try to get her money back. That's when Jones joined the Institute for Justice's federal class action lawsuit with people like Rebecca Brown, who tried to fly with her father's life savings of $82,000 to deposit it into a bank account like he wanted.
My father and his father before him worked very hard for this money, and I'm merely taking it from one state to another.
The suit filed against TSA, the DEA, and the United States of America, saying every year DEA conducts hundreds or even thousands of seizures of cash from travelers. None of the federal agencies would comment on the lawsuit.
It just seems like it's almost like pirates of the airport.
Civil forfeitures don't just happen at airports.
Hey, what's all this? What's all this money?
The I-Team was able to get an early look at the Institute for Justice's latest Policing for Profit report, a collection of state and federal forfeiture data. It reveals Florida took in more through forfeitures than any other state in 2018. For years, Institute for Justice attorney Justin Pearson has been working to change Florida laws.
No one should lose their money or property without being convicted of a crime. And the Florida legislature tried to fix that, but the Florida police have found a way around those reforms.
Let's pause here. Back in 2016, the Florida legislature unanimously passed a bill requiring law enforcement to make an arrest before seizing most property. The new law also increased the standard of evidence to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, back to Pearson's argument about law enforcement.
And they should not be profiting from circumventing Florida law.
The Institute for Justice calls the federal equitable sharing program a loophole because it allows state and local law enforcement to partner with the feds on civil forfeitures and keep a portion of the profits. Why does that matter? For one, under federal law, a person does not have to be charged for their property to be seized.
To fix the problem, all the Florida legislature has to do is close the equitable sharing loophole.
Some states have done that by removing the incentive for local law enforcement to directly benefit from what they seize. Instead, the profit is put into the general fund, not police coffers.
Some of the poster children for bad actors are some of the cities in the state of Florida.
Republican State Senator Jeff Brandis of St. Pete
how much is being federally forfeited
was behind the 2016 bill that changed civil forfeiture rules. What are your thoughts on this idea that equitable sharing is a loophole?
It absolutely is a loophole.
One he plans to address this upcoming session.
Look, we want to support our law enforcement, but we also don't want to put out some incentive out there for them to do civil asset forfeiture. We should ensure that they have to follow the state law before they can jump to the federal law.
State law also requires agencies donate at least 25% of forfeiture proceeds to community programs like drug treatment and crime prevention. The I-Team reviewed state data and found overall, agencies are falling short of that requirement. But St. Pete Police Chief Anthony Holloway's department records show donations beyond what the state requires.
I look at it as anything to help the kids, we want to give back to.
Last year, the department gave $100,000 of the $119,000 it collected in forfeitures to dozens of local organizations.
Law enforcement should have to prove that there's a crime related to that money. I think when it's used the right way, it's a great tool.
The Florida Police Chiefs Association declined an interview, but says it opposes any legislation that gets rid of what it calls a properly managed civil forfeiture program. On the federal level, Jones sees nothing proper about her case. But in November, 6 months after the feds took her money, Jones found out on her birthday she will be getting all of it back.
Probably the best birthday gift ever.
A letter from the DEA said, "I am writing to inform you of the decision to return the above referenced property." No other details, no further explanation of why the money was taken in the first place.
I knew that I hadn't done anything, but it was like guilty until proven innocent.
Jones says this isn't where her story ends.
The law needs to be changed.
The class action lawsuit she joined is still moving forward.
Even if it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, I'm in to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else.
We've included the newly released Policing for Profit report on our website, abcactionnews.com, and we will be sure to bring you any updates on new legislation filed this upcoming session. I'm I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern, taking action for you.